And we're back with another video of an unboxing of untested digital cameras. I bought I think there's about 22 cameras in here. I'll show them to you real quick. And this is another camera lot that I purchased from a pawn shop that was going out of business. And I suspect they had many of these cameras in their back room for perhaps up to a decade, because some of these models are 8 to 15 years old. But I did pay up for these, even though they're all untested. I spent $250 on these cameras. There's one DSLR in here that I know of, and the rest are mainly point and shoot digital cameras. So let's just jump right in and get started. I'm gonna go ahead and set the box on the ground. And if you're new here, hi, my name's Kevin. This is what I do for a living, is buy and sell used digital cameras. And this is one of the funnest parts of my job, is going through untested camera lots and testing them. I happen to have a ton of batteries here from a variety of manufacturers that are all charged and ready to go to test all of these cameras that I have, as well as some AA batteries. It took me quite a few years to develop kind of a charging network of batteries and chargers, so I can always test stuff that's coming in, because there's hundreds of different camera battery models. All right, let's get started. Nikon Coolpix S4100. Little compact digicam. I think it's 14 megapixels. Somewhere in there, 5x optical zoom. Uses a Nikon ENL19 battery. Yeah, looks fine. And I sell this model quite a bit, actually. This guy is going to have a value in the used market of right around $65 to $75. I'll go ahead and say 70. Let's go ahead and pull out that DSLR camera that I saw in here. And it's not one of my most consistent brands to sell, largely because a lot of the times they have issues after so many years. No, it's not a Canon. It's a Pentax. Pentax K100D. And it uses Pentax's K-mount, which covers a wide variety of lenses. I do like Pentax. They have some neat DSLR models, like the Pentax K5 is pretty popular. So a lot of the times these cameras have battery connection issues. They can use either a CRV3 battery or 4 AA batteries. I'm going to go ahead and try 4 AA batteries. Have a kind of a crack on the rubber viewfinder cap, so that's something that would have to be noted as well. Those aren't the kind of flip off and replace ones that Canon and Nikon used. I believe they're actually built into the camera, so that's kind of a pain. It does look like the focus of the viewfinder is still working though. Yeah, it is. Ooh, power's on. That is, I'm probably around a 20 to 30% power on ratio on Pentax DSLR cameras. Now the question is, does the autofocus on the lens work? It's set, you can see there's a toggle here, AF and MF, so I have it set to AF just to test the autofocus. Yeah. Oh, nice. That's a pleasant surprise. The flash, yeah, flash fires too. All right. Well, that's great. This is kind of even when it was released, was more of a budget model within Pentax's line. Okay, so value on this Pentax K100D in good working condition is going to be somewhere a little bit north of 100. Because of the viewfinder plastic issue, I'm going to go ahead and assign a value on this of about $90. If you pair it with a memory card. And in the last video I did, it was a 20 camera lot, and I believe in the end about 11 out of the 20 ended up working, and 9 had anywhere from minor issues to major issues to were completely inoperable. So whenever I'm buying these lots, it's just something I factor in, is generally about 50% won't work. Sometimes it's as high as 80%, sometimes it's as low as 20%, it just kind of depends on the lot. But given that these were from a pawn shop, you would think that whenever they bought them originally, probably over a decade ago, that they were working at that point. So maybe we'll be a little bit north of that 50% mark. Another same camera, Nikon Coolpix S4100. All right, So we've got two of those. Oh, this one's got the lens kind of stuck out. So that's not a good or promising start. Power's on, but ew. Yeah, you can see the lens is trying to move currently. Trying to being the keywords there. And the lens is stuck out. So a lot of times that's happened from an impact, or sometimes sand or grit gets inside of the lens. But that's generally a fairly difficult fix for me, at least. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in the 4 parts section, and I'm not going to assign a value to this camera. Kodak Easyshare C340. Oh, it says mom on it. Isn't that nice? So this is a toggle wheel operated on-off. And I'm not a huge fan of these because a lot of the times they're going to have problems. That's what I'm talking about. It can be kind of inconsistent when you power on the older toggle wheel Kodaks. Not a whole lot of value on this Kodak Easyshare C340. Value on this, I sell these quite often, is going to be in the 25 to 30 range. I'm going to go ahead and give it a value of 25. Moving on. Pentax Optio M20. This is a AA power digital camera. And I have sold tens over, I think, 15,000 point-and-shoot digital cameras in the last 10 years. So I've seen almost every model that was made, at least meant for domestic US consumption. Okay, appears to have some sort of lens error. Let's try moving the lens moves in and out, but it makes a weird noise and then auto powers off each time. So I'll have to look into this one a little bit more. It looks doubtful as if I'm going to be able to get it into working condition. If this was working, this Digicam's got a value of about 35 with a memory card. Alright, we are on to camera number 6 already. It's going fast. Canon Powershot SX210. And this came in a variety of colors like green and purple, and I think silver and gold. One of my favorite Neil Young songs. Let's see. NP5L, I believe. Yeah. It does have a ding on the very front that looks like it might impact the lens being able to open. But let's see. Yeah, it does. Ooh, I just manually flicked it open with my finger. So even with minor defects like this, I try to see if I can get something into a working condition, and then when I list it, and most often I sell these products on eBay, I just go ahead and put it into a 4 parts condition, just so the buyer is completely aware, and then note whatever the problem is in the item description, and then take pictures of it if you can. Just because something is not in 100% working condition doesn't mean it doesn't have value. Just like this one. Oh, it actually opened fully that time. Got my favorite shirt on. I have a Canon hat somewhere too. Maybe I should have combined the Nikon and Canon. Oh, there's a piece of fuzz. As you zoom out, that's why I always test these longer optical range digital cameras. It's got a piece of fuzz in the middle that's visible. So normally that's something inside of the sensor. And sometimes a quick little can jiggle it around a little bit. Most often it doesn't work for me. I've seen people use some sort of vacuum technique to get potentially that particle moved out of the way. Alternatively, some people take apart the camera entirely, get to the sensor, and then are able to blow it off and then close back up the camera. I've tried that, and let's just say me and tiny little screws don't get along very well, and I'm not super mechanically inclined, despite this being my job. I think you could get this into a working condition, but unfortunately I'm not going to be able to. But it still does have some value. You know, used good condition in this camera, you're looking at $80 to $100 or more. So I would think that given that it does take pictures, it does have this lens issue, I would probably list this for parts for around $20 and at least recoup a little bit of money. So I'll go ahead and assign a value on that to $20. Okay, we got a bridge camera here. Nikon Coolpix P500. And if you're familiar with the more current generation, like Nikon Coolpix P600, I think they have the P900 and P1000, super optical zoom cameras. You can take like pictures and video of the moon. They're really cool. Well, this is where it all started, was with the P80, P90, P100, P500, P10, P520. And this has a 36x optical zoom. Biggest issues I see with this camera are a lot of the times the front lens housing is bent, and whenever you try to zoom the lens out, it will get stuck and it won't work. So this uses Nikon's ELPH, I think. Yeah. That one's got charge. Let's see if we can get this one powering on. One thing about Nikon is you do have to hold the on-off button for a little bit longer than other manufacturers. The green light came on, it did power on. So let's move it down to no. See if the lens moves in and out fine. Yeah, it does. Pop the flash, take a quick picture. There we go. It's in good shape. You pair this with a charger and potentially a memory card, you're looking at a value of about $75 on this P500 in good working condition. Again, the values that I state are for the US market. They're just based on my own personal sales history because I've sold all of these models and in some cases dozens or hundreds within the last 10 years. So I have quite a bit of data to pull from. So with that camera, we just hit about $280 in projected value from that $250 original investment that I paid for that box of cameras. Now that doesn't factor in chip costs, eBay costs, all my personal time that's involved in picking up the cameras and then spending time testing them and then eventually listing them. So all in all, I would hope for a box where I pay $250 to at least hit double my money or maybe a little bit more. So target would be somewhere north of $500 to $600 on this lot, and we'll see if we can get there. Okay, Panasonic DMC-LZ5. AA powered 6 megapixel camera. Speaking of dust and sensors, Panasonic is notorious for dust and sensors, especially in their longer range optical zoom cameras. Not so much in these little guys normally. Yeah, the lens moves very smoothly. Let's take a picture. Flash fires. Picture looks good. Go ahead and delete that. So pair this with a small memory card. And most of these cameras will only accept up to 2, sometimes 4 gig memory cards. I like to include those in as many listings as I can because a lot of people don't even have that size of memory card available. And these cameras won't work by and large with the modern versions of like the 128, 256 gigabyte SD cards. I've even seen 1 terabyte and 2 terabyte SD cards lately, which is just mind-blowing. So value on the DMC-LZ5 is going to be about $35. Alright, next up, Konica Minolta Dimage Z1, which is one of their early kind of bridge-style digital cameras. It's got a 10x optical zoom. Uses 4 AA batteries, but what I've noticed is that this plastic battery tray, pretty low quality and will often be broken. Or if it's not broken, it won't hold in the AA batteries properly. So let's see if this one maybe is the exception. It's not a bad camera. I mean, it's not a super build quality, but optically it's decent. I've seen some nice pictures taken with it. It's got 2 modes, a live view and regular view. Flip it to live view real quick. Lens is a bit noisy, but lens moves in and out fine. Makes a cool noise when you take a picture. And it's in working condition. And the AA battery tray is working fine and holding the batteries good. So all of that is a win. And the value on this guy, this Konica Minolta Dimage Z1, not great. You'd be looking at about $30 free shipping. So not a whole ton of value here, but kind of came along for the ride with the other cameras that I bought. Alright, we've got some good stuff left in here. I remember these. Canon PowerShot ELPH150, which is a 10x, I think, 14 or 16 megapixel camera. Uses Canon's NB11L battery. I happen to have one here that should be charged. I always get confused on which side to put these in. Must be the other way. Ooh, looks good. Do the zoom test. Okay, we do have a black spot. 2 black spots. As you zoom out. Normally if you see spots like that that are really only apparent as you're zooming out, it's probably some sort of sensor dust issue. And this is something that you have to kind of be careful for, because I've bought a ton of cameras that have issues like this that the sellers test, but they don't do a full optical range test, and then when I get it and I zoom all the way out and there's black spots clearly visible in pictures taken, not good. So if you are selling a camera at some point, that is something you would want to test. I'm not sure if I'm able to get that in the video here, but you can see 2 black spots right here. So I will see if I can get those taken care of, but more than likely I would sell this for parts as is, tested and working, but with black spots, and someone probably will be able to fix it and then get it to a better home. The value on this used is actually quite high. I've seen this sell between $100 and $150 in used condition. So for parts with the black spots, you'd be looking at value probably around $40. Sony DSC W350, sold a bunch of these. It's a 14 megapixel little compact point and shoot. A lot of the times these have LCD problems, but oh wow, speak of the devil. So that one's clearly got a lot of issues. You can barely see the Cybershot. You can see that's all that is visible on the LCD is just this tiny little spot right here. So might have some internal cracks, but oh yeah, it looks like it was dropped and there's a crack right here, and it's caused black splotches throughout the LCD screen. So no value on this one. Okay, what we got here? Ooh, Canon PowerShot SD-1200 in quite good shape physically. It uses Canon's NB6L battery. Got one of those right here. And let's see if this powers on. It does. Lens looks good. Hear that clicking? Pretty common with Canon PowerShots. Okay, so I would just note a little bit of that lens noise in the product listing. Otherwise, cosmetically, it's actually in quite excellent condition. So value on this camera with a charger, a USB cable, and a memory card is going to be right around $120. So this is actually one of the reasons why I bought the box in the first place, is I saw that and it looked good. Okay, Nikon Coolpix S8200. And a lot of the times what you see with these older Nikon Coolpixes is the rubber on the front is sticky and tacky. In this case, it looks decent. This uses Nikon's ENL12 battery. Just this guy right here. Got a couple of those in here, I know. Value on this has definitely gone up over the last few years too. But there's blotches on the LCD screen. So normally these do not affect the actual picture quality, they're just on the display. So that's something that I would just double check, but 99% of the time that's what's going on here. So unfortunately, that does affect the value a fair amount. So value on this camera, if it didn't have any problems, would be actually probably somewhere north of $100. But with the splotches on the LCD, I would still sell it, but just note that. And the value on this camera with that is probably going to be somewhere around $45. All right, we've got like 10 cameras left, it looks like. Gotta get moving here. Fujifilm Finepix S8630. This is a bridge style digital camera with a 36x zoom. You know, these have never sold great or for a lot of money on the secondary market, even though I think they're decent cameras. And I think part of it is just Fujifilm's name recognition. It's gotten better in some aspects for their mirrorless cameras and for some of their higher end premium models. If it powers on. Uses 3 AA batteries, which is unusual. Oh, I don't think I put it in right. Nope. First thing you want to check if something doesn't power on with AA batteries is, did you align them correctly? Powers on. Look at that lens move. Ooh, kind of clicky. You hear that? It's not normal. Wow, that thing, that's what 36x gets you. Let's see if the flash fires and the camera takes a picture. I don't think the flash fired. Force flash, here we come. Yeah. Okay. So that lens is rather noisy, and that's something that is going to affect the value. And you also want to make a note of if you were to sell something like this. So value in great shape, you're not looking at probably more than 40, 50 bucks on this. But with the lens noise on this camera, I would probably list this camera in the $35 range. With that camera, we hit around $580 in projected value. So we are definitely going to be in the green on this lot. This is a Nikon Coolpix S4100, uses Nikon's EL19 battery. I think I've got a couple of those in here somewhere. Yep, looks good so far. Cosmetically, it's in quite good condition as well. So this camera 5 years ago used to sell for $30, $35, but the value on it has gone up. You're looking at a value of this camera of about $75 with a charger and potentially a memory card. So that's a good score. Canon Powershot A520, little AA powered digicam. Those batteries are light. They don't have much juice in them. One of the better performing brands that I found are Amazon Basics, but I am going to be doing an 8 battery test here pretty soon in digital cameras and camcorders that will hopefully show the ultimate winner between Amazon, Duracell, Energizer, a few other brands, as well as rechargeable batteries, just to see what the best value is. So the first thing that you want to check on these is the rubber panel on the side, the AV door. A lot of the times that becomes brittle and will break off even when you touch it or lift it up. In this case, it's got some wear, but it is actually holding on. So value on this camera is going to be in the $45 range. There's other models as you go into the Canon Powershot A6 series, like the A610, A620, A630, A650, that have over $100 values in some cases, if they're in really good shape. So most of these cameras so far have actually worked, which has been great. Samsung S630, which is a AA powered little digicam that came out 15 years ago. This little guy does appear to be working fine. These don't have a ton of value on the secondary market. Value on this camera is going to be right around 30 bucks. Fujifilm Finepix JZ500, which uses the very common Fujifilm NP5L battery. They use this thing for years in dozens of different models. And other manufacturers use their versions, like Kodak's got one too. Same battery. So does Nikon. So you can kind of use them interchangeably because they're, for the most part, the same milliamp hours. And tried a bunch of different charged batteries on this camera, and it is not powering on. So that one's going to go in the 4 parts area. Another Canon, and this is another reason why I bought this lot, Canon Powershot SD1300, which is the newer version of the SD1200 that we were looking at before, and uses the same battery, NB6L. This came in silver, blue, and pink, I think. Sold all those colors. And this value's definitely gone up over the years. It looks decent. Clean a little bit of the dust off. Okay, looks decent. Lens is a little bit noisy. I would grade this in good condition once I got it cleaned up a little bit. And if you pair this with a charger and a memory card, you're looking at a value of about $150 on this camera. Just 5 years ago, the value on this was probably half that. But, you know, as prices have gone up, so have my costs to buy the cameras in the first place. So it's not like I'm making that amount of money more. I'm paying more for everything I'm buying as well. All right. We've got just a couple of cameras left. There's one in a box here. Got an Olympus SC11, which is a 14 megapixel 20x camera in a red color. Ta-da! Looks to be in pretty good shape. Like, not used much good shape. If I can, I try to retain the box. That does add some value, just like anything collectible. If someone is, say, an Olympus collector and they're adding this to their collection, the box adds generally anywhere from $5 to $30 depending on the original value of the camera. This uses Olympus's Li50B battery. Looks good. I think that's just the memory. Yeah, memory's full. Go ahead and delete some pictures real quick. There you go. Lens looks really nice, very smooth. This camera clearly was not used very often, and there's a little bit of noise during focus, but that's common with this model. Fortunately, these don't have as much value as their competitors at the time, between Panasonic and Canon and Nikon, but value on this, if it looks like there's not a charger, I would add a charger in here. It comes with the cables and the instructions as well. Value on this is going to be somewhere in the $60 range. 3 cameras left. Let's do an oldie. The oldest one in the entire box. Sony DSC P52, which is a 3 megapixel camera. Uses AA batteries and Sony's memory stick memory card, which is the long skinny one. If you've seen it before, probably remember it. Pretty limited 2x optical zoom, but it does appear to be working fine. Let me go ahead and try taking a picture. Yeah, picture looks good. Won't actually record content unless there's a memory stick in there. So if I happen to have one, I would pair it with that, just so the customer would get the memory stick at the same time. I think this uses a pretty standard... Oh, it uses Memory Stick Pro. That's right. Yeah, it uses the most common camera USB memory USB cable right here. So that's pretty easy to connect to if you don't have cables. Looks like this camera is working normally. Not a ton of value in these older, pretty well built Sony Cybershots. Value on this camera is going to be somewhere around $35. Does have a few dings around the lens rim, but that's pretty common and doesn't affect the actual performance. Okay, 2 cameras left. Fujifilm Finepix Z30. Oh, in the last box I think I had one of these too. Uses the same battery, that NP5L type. You hear that? Just like the last Z30 I had tested, sounds exactly like that. So that's something I would note, but it is clearly very common with older Fujifilm cameras in the Z30 line. But it did take a picture fine. And sell this camera all day long. This value on this one's going to be about $35. LCD does have a little bit of wear, but okay. Sony DSC-H55 uses Sony's NP5L battery. This camera's in fairly rough shape, so I don't know. What do I see most with this camera? It's gotta be LCD problems. Power's on, lens moves out. Huh, actually looks decent. The screen does have wear, as you can see, but nothing, not manageable. It's not terrible when the camera's on. Let's see if it takes a picture. Yeah, it does. So this camera's in fair shape, but it is working, and I've sold this model quite a bit in the past. albeit mostly in better condition. But the value on this guy is gonna actually be probably around 50 bucks, even in the condition it's in. If it was in really good shape with a charger and whatnot, you'd be looking at 75 to 100 on this DSC-H55. We just crossed over $1,000 in overall projected value on this $250 buy. So that's something that I'm very well pleased with. And granted, some of this will sell like that, like those Canon Powershots, and some of it will probably stick around for a couple months or maybe even longer. All of that factors into the overall profitability and the turn and how quickly I'm moving inventory. And it's all the things that I constantly think about and how much I end up purchasing lots for. But I hope that video was interesting and entertaining, and I hope to see you on the next one. Bye.